Alright, so this is my playoff recap part 5. Going over the rest of round 2, as well as my conference finals preview. Those start tonight with the Thunder and the Wolves. So starting off here with the Cavs and the Pacers. Game 5 is the only one I haven't covered. It's been like a week ago at this point, but Indiana won by 9 points. They're doing really good. They shot 42% from 3 in this game and 50% from the field, while the Cavs shot 25% from 3 and 38% from the field. So in a 9-point game, the shooting variance very much noticeable. And that obviously played a big difference there in Game 5 for the Cavs in this game. Also, Donovan Mitchell was very clearly not 100%. He did not play very good. He did have 35 points, but he only shot 32%. Max Strus was over 9 in this game, so a lot of poor shooting performances there for the Cavs, which is kind of why they lost. But I still feel decent about this Cavs team going into next year because a lot of these guys are still young and still improving. Moving on from that, we have the Knicks and the Celtics. The Celtics obviously had some injury issues with the back half of this. Game 4, Jason Tatum got injured towards the end of Game 4. Obviously not ideal. They went out and dominated Game 5 without Jason Tatum, so that is something worth noting, right? But in Game 6, New York ended up dominating. No Jason Tatum. They couldn't, get 2 wins out of there for Boston. But Game 6 specifically was very, very bad for Boston. They shot 30% from 3, 36% from the field, and New York was on a different level. New York had 4 different guys with 20 plus points in Game 6, 6 guys at double-digit points, so very much a group effort here. New York makes it a very dangerous team going forward in these playoffs. Next up is Thunder and the Nuggets, a very, very good series there. Obviously being a 7-game series, it's going to be, pretty good and pretty entertaining series. Game 5 was really close. Obviously Thunder ended up blowing out Game 5. But it was close pretty much throughout the entirety of this game. Denver was up like 8 points or so going into the fourth quarter of Game 5, and then OKC dominated the fourth quarter 34-19. So Nikola Jokic did have 44 points in that game. He did not get enough help from other players. Jamal Murray was good, but guys like Christian Brown had only 8 points. Michael Porter Jr. only had 2 points on a 1-7 shooting. Not enough supporting cast for Jokic in Game 5. OKC, they had 7 different guys or 6 different guys with double-digit points. So once again, a group effort from OKC. In Game 6, a little bit of a different story here. This was a very, very poor performance here for the Thunder. As far as 3-point shooting, they shot 27% from 3 in this game. Definitely one of their worst performances of the playoffs from 3-point line, right? And as you can see, it obviously played a big factor with them end up losing this game. Nuggets had a lot of help from supporting cast. Outside of Jokic and Jamal Murray, Christian Brown had 22 points. Julian Strawther had 15 points off the bench. He was doing really good. Once again, Michael Porter not very good. Just easily 10 points. And then Aaron Gordon had some hamstring issues kind of pop up in Game 6. And that leads on to Game 7, where Aaron Gordon was very much in and out to play. Game 7, he ended up playing, but he didn't do much in Game 7. They got blown out by 30. They were down by 40 at some points. Aaron Gordon only played 24 minutes and was not nearly as big a factor as he was earlier in this series because he was very much limited by that hamstring injury. But a whole bunch of other issues for Denver right in this game. They shot 22% from 3, 39% from the field. Both really bad numbers. They also had 22 turnovers for OKC's 9. It was just dominating for OKC. Pretty much all OKC. And then moving on to our last first-round matchup, the Warriors and the Timberwolves. Minnesota ended up winning, Game 4 and Game 5. Relatively close games, but it kind of felt like they were in control pretty much the majority of it. In Game 5 specifically, the Warriors had really good performances from Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga, but a guy like Jimmy Butler was only 4 for 11 with 17 points. He's supposed to be the guy without Curry, and he was the 3rd leading scorer in Game 5. He only shot 11 shots. He shot the same amount of shots as Draymond. Right, Jimmy Butler needs to be more impactful offensively been more aggressive offensively when the Warriors are without Stephen Curry. He did not really do that in this series, which is a big part of why they ended up obviously being without Stephen Curry. It was going to be hard no matter what, but you still would have liked Jimmy Butler to get a little more playoff Jimmy like he was in Miami. If I go back here, right, to this Cavs and Pacers series, my original pick was Cavs in 7. Obviously that did not happen. Pacers ended up winning in 5, but Cavs had a lot of injury issues to worry about. First 2 games they were derailed by injuries without Mobley and Garland and DeAndre Hunter as well. At least in game 2, and then game 1, of course, without Darius Garland. With those guys playing those 2 games, very easily could have been a win. Right, they were fully healthy as far as who played in games 3, 4, and 5. They were fully healthy, and they ended up losing those games 2-1. So you can still see the Pacers had 2-1 advantage in the fully healthy Cavs team, which, yeah, you can definitely say that. But again, if those first 2 games the Cavs had been healthy, Minda would have been favored. How they have won those games, and then the series could have been very, very different. Not trying to take anything away from Indiana. So round 2 was there was a lot of injuries from round 2 between both of these series, which could have definitely altered the course of both of all of these series. We're looking at the Knicks and Celtics. Very much my original pick, Celtics in 6, and the Knicks in a winning 6 again. Injuries. Kristaps Porzingis was battling an illness pretty much the whole series. He got reserved to a bench role, playing probably half the minutes he would have played regularly. He was very much injured in this postseason run. Holiday was injured. Tatum, of course, missing games 5 and game 6. And the end of game 4 as well. Not ideal at all. Again, if Jason Tatum was healthy, if Kristaps Porzingis was fully healthy, you could very well see Boston winning this series. Game 1 and game 2, they lost by 3 and 1 point respectively. Kristaps Porzingis was playing at like half speed, only half of the time, right? He was only half healthy, only played half the minutes. So he should have been fully healthy, playing his full workload of minutes. Very easily could have been Boston in both of those first 2 games. And at that point, starting off, T-Boy, they had a lot of momentum and definitely could have won that series. Moving on from there to the Nuggets and Thunder. This was a relatively healthy series. Of course, Aaron Gordon had his ailments, at least towards the later half, especially in game 7. But this was a pretty healthy series overall. It was 3-3. Everyone played all the games for both teams, so you really can't sit here and say, oh, Aaron Gordon's injury, blah, 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 but he still played through it. And it really was only noticeably affected in game 7, and the Thunder won by 30 points. So a healthy Aaron Gordon is probably not making up a 30 points. This series was a very healthy series for both teams. And then, of course, the Warriors and Timberwolves. I had the Timberwolves in 7, ended up winning in 5. This is the only series that actually predicted the correct winner. Or actually, no, OKC was as well. So, yeah, both the Western Conference games I predicted the correct winners, but definitely thought this was going to go a little bit farther. If Stephen Curry was playing, all series, they definitely could have ended up winning more games. They won game 1 with Stephen Curry only playing in the first half. He played the first half of game 1. They didn't play a single minute the rest of the series. And they still ended up winning game 1. So just seeing how effective he was into just the 1 half in game 1 definitely could lead you to believe that this was a very, very different series had he been playing the whole time. So moving on from there, we have our conference finals preview. Eastern Conference Finals between the Knicks and the Pacers. So one thing to note is that neither of these teams have won a championship since at least 1973. The Knicks won in 73. The Pacers have never won one. So that's going to be a really cool storyline with any of these 4 teams here. None of them have won a championship in a very long time. And 3 of them haven't won a championship, technically ever. We'll get into that a little bit later. But just for these 2 teams, this would be a very good battle. I think both teams are really deep. We've seen a lot of different guys from both these teams have their moment in this post-season run. I think it's going to be a very, very long series. I go Pacers at 7 because I think it's going to go 7 games. I think both these teams are really good, really deep. I think we're going to have a very, very good series. As far as picking the Pacers over the Knicks, I do believe the Pacers just a little bit more. I like their depth a little bit more than New York. Having Henry Card and then Matthew and stuff like that coming off the bench as opposed to New York. Doesn't have a whole lot of firepower off the bench per se, but I think Indiana's bench scoring is Moving on to OKC and Minnesota. So, Minnesota's never won NBA Finals ever. OKC has not won. I think the Dallas Supersonics won, just technically the same franchise, but the OKC Thunder specifically have not won a final. So we are going to likely get a new champion, or at least a potential new champion here out of the Western Conference, with, the Knicks being the only possible to compete as far as specific franchise, and they still haven't won it in 50 years. So it's going to be good. And also it's going to be our 7th straight year with a different final champion. So that's going to be good. A lot of parity in the league. But going in this series, I think it's going to be similar to the Pacers and Knicks. I think it's going to go long. I think 6 games is still really good. Not a game 7, but that's still a long series. Right? Anything above 5 is a long series. Just because it doesn't go 7 doesn't mean it's not going to be very competitive. I think most of these games are going to be close. The Thunder do have more depth in Minnesota. A lot of that being defensively, and Alex Caruso coming off the bench being an absolute menace. I think that's going to be a really big factor here. Defense. OKC, probably the best defensive team in the playoffs. Probably the best defensive team in the league as a whole. To be honest, but it's definitely the best defensive team left in this playoffs. And then one of the best offensive teams as well. Like, both these teams are really good defensively and offensively, honestly. But I think OKC has the edge a little bit, and they have the depth, and they have the star power. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best player available in the postseason right now. I'm going to take OKC in this 6 games. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back later this week for an updated playoff recap.